Buffalo is one of those teams I think can implode. I think we talk a lot about, they had Super Bowl aspirations. But when you get Josh Allen in those moments where there's fourth and long, he kind of gets a little fidgety to me for some reason, and he'll make a bad throw, make a bad decision, sit in the pocket, take a sack when he's not supposed to take a sack. So he's Buffalo's one of those teams, to get back to our original point of, I think they could implode down the stretch in the playoffs.
This is Big Man Bets, and yes, I'm trying to be cool like my guys Nick Mangold, Orlando Pace, the Hall of Famer and the Hall of Famer to be, greatest show on turf, and the New York Jet for life. Gentlemen, we have something very serious to address at the start of the show. A man, I believe his name is Darren Rovell. He's out there on Twitter saying that offensive linemen are not marketable. There is and there is no offering them name, image, and likeness. We're talking on the college level. Isn't in the spirit of what this is all about. Nick, we're talking about this because you said this is the dumbest take of all time. We've got two offensive linemen here who we are marketing, and I, for one, am offended. And Nick, we're going to start with you. Rovell thinks that you can't sell numbers. Nobody's going to buy your jersey. I don't know. You walk around, the stadium here in Jersey, I think you see a lot of 74, do you not?
No, I think I walk around and no one knows who I am, and it's a whole big thing, and I can just blend in perfectly. Darren is known for his hot takes and stupid comments. This one is by far his most stupid comment that he's made. I remember when I was just a wee whippersnapper back in Ohio, and seeing the Orlando Pace pancake magnet that was for his Heisman, trying to get the Heisman. Like, I remember that, and I think I may have owned one. That thing was awesome. So if you're going to try to tell me that offensive linemen are not marketable, you are a fool. But fun story on this. It has a little bit of closure as it's made its way around the Twitterverse last night. So this popped off yesterday morning, I think, Tuesday morning, and so Tuesday evening, I'm taking my daughter to her American Ninja Warrior class that she takes. She's 7 years old, and I'm picking her up. And as I'm picking her up, as we're walking out, the guy taps me on the shoulder. He looks over. It's Darren. His twin 7-year-olds are also taking the class as well. The kids were there, so I didn't make a scene out of it. But I just found that it's a small world, and I'm glad that he had to see me in person to know that tweet was just a terrible tweet. And I didn't say anything, I didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't make a big scene. But he knew, he had the guilt in his eyes. He saw it, and so I feel good about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a terrible take, and to be honest, Mark, you're on the line with two guys who had two national spots. I'm watching television not too long ago and seeing my man Nick Mangold on a national commercial. So obviously, we're both pretty marketable in the world of even post-football, man. So. And then, obviously, a lot of guys are fans of offensive line play. In some aspects, if you go to a Cleveland game, you'll see a ton of Joe Thomas jerseys all over Cleveland. Guys just love, a lot of the guys, the bigger guys that probably played offensive line, they love the big guys up front. And then we're the smartest guys on the field anyway. So, of course, we can navigate our ways through the marketing world and personality, let our personality show. We just don't do a lot of talking up front, but because we're all about playing. But of course, we're marketing. That's a horrible take, and obviously the big guys are marketable, even on a national spot.
Let's underline that. The smartest guys on the field. I like that flex right there, Orlando. And let's also talk about who is the football fan. Who are the people in the stadium? A good percentage, right? Hard hat going to work, making it happen for the family. There's a relatability to the offensive lineman who's not getting the glory out there. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right?
Overworked, underappreciated, man. There's a lot of football fans out there that could use that mantra. A lot of blue collar guys that go out and love the game of football and love to see the big guys do what they do. So it's a ridiculous take, but
Mark, you know what I find crazy? What I find crazy about all this is you look at a football game, and what position has the most players on the field every play? The offensive line. You have 5 offensive linemen every play. You might have 5 or 6 DBs, 1 player, 2 plays here and there. You might throw a couple of, you might have 5 linebackers in a passing situation. You're trying to rush the passer. You might get 5 wide receivers, very rarely. But guaranteed every play of the game, you're going to have 5 offensive linemen. I don't understand why people have always been knocking that the offensive lineman isn't marketable when it is clearly the largest group of people on a field at one time who, are the most intelligent. I'll give a little pass to quarterback. Quarterbacks are pretty smart. I will give them that. And there are a handful of running backs. When you start talking protection, they're very good in that too, though they don't want to be and will not admit it. But as far as a group goes, offensive linemen are the most intelligent group of the football team, and you have 5 of those guys on the field at the same time. I feel like it's a marketer's dream to be able to have this group of fellas that is probably the most close-knit group as well, sitting on the field, being able to do things. I mean, it's so dumb overall. I don't get it.
It's another great point. People love community, want to have friends in life. Get a group together. All right, I think we've done enough damage to what Darren was trying to do to the O-line. I feel better about it. So we're gonna start in Philly, and we've got a Gardner Minshew who played great last week, and then we have Jalen Hurts, and we're asking who you think should start. Gardner for his career, 39 touchdowns, 11 picks, played on a terrible Jacksonville team. This year he's 22 of 27, couple of touchdowns. And Jalen's coming in with a 60% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Of course, he much more able to pick up yards on the ground. He's got 695 rushing yards. What are you doing if you're Philly? And both of them are young, 23 for Jalen, 26 for Gardner. This ain't some old vet here. Orlando, what would you do if you're the Eagles?
You know what? I would probably go with Jalen. I think Gardner, you kind of know what he is now, and then obviously just the upside of Jalen Hurts and what he can do on the field in terms of throwing the ball and then running the ball. It really gives another dimension to your offense. So, I think Gardner, is a great story. He can come in and be a spot guy from time to time, but there's a reason he's a backup, because you do see the potential in Jalen and what he could do as you progress down the season. I wouldn't get caught up in one big game that Gardner had. I think he came in and spelled and played well and got the victory, obviously. But I think Jalen Hurts is still your future. So I would probably go back to him when he's ready.
Yeah, I look at this Eagles team and Nick Sirianni coming in, and it seemed like he was kind of being stubborn at the beginning of the year, and then just figured, all right, listen, let's go with what works. Let's go with what Jalen does best. And, we'll go from there. And things really started to turn around for him. The trouble I have with Gardner Minshew is, he's a fantastic person. I was able to meet him, I think last Super Bowl or somewhere years ago. And so he's a great guy. But he was stuck on a terrible Jacksonville team. Like, you go to Jacksonville and you're like, well, we don't have weapons and we don't really care if we win or lose. And so it doesn't really matter. And he still has those numbers. You said 39 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Those are fantastic numbers. So if you put him on a team that, he can excel on and it has a good team around him and has a good base, good organization, I would love to see what he can do. Eagles are in a fantastic position here. I mean, they have 2 quarterbacks that have shown that they can win and shown that they can play in the NFL. So I think the best bet for this year is, I think Philly is Jalen Hurts. I mean, they drafted him. Like, that's their guy. He's going to be there. I think what you're coming out of it is we'll see if he plays again this week or not. But in Gardner, you have someone that is a fantastic trade bait. And, everyone talks about draft capital and everything. If he plays another solid game, in his time as a backup and his time as filling in, like that, when you come into free agency March and you're getting around draft time, like that little dangle of a quarterback that can come in and start right away, I think would elicit, great offers coming in for Philly. So they're in a great position. And I think they will stick with Jalen Hurts just because he's their homegrown guy. He's the guy they drafted, and that's where they want to stay.
I mean, okay, so you just teed that up, though. If he was a first-round pick and he had those numbers, I mean, wouldn't he be talked about differently, Orlando? I mean, I'm wondering if Minshew might be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. If he was drafted like Sam Darnold and was doing what he's doing, well, how would we be talking about him?
You'll be talking about it as being a starter in this league somewhere. I think with those type of numbers, and he would be somebody's starter. But obviously, when you draft a guy, he's your guy at that time. You almost feel obligated in the league because he, to make that work or at least give him more chances than you would a guy like Gardner. Let me just say one thing about Gardner I thought was good, and I'm glad they captured it. Just the raw emotion of after the game, the time he spent with his father. I thought that was a cool moment, and I'm glad somebody captured that moment because, Nick, as you know, in the league, we don't get those moments like that. Like we don't, to be that excited about a victory, to have a chance to play. So as a fan of football, I thought that was a pretty cool moment to see the interaction between he and his dad. Just the excitement that they both shared in those moments.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that. I love the choice of jacket from Gardner. I thought that was fantastic. I need to get me one of those. That's the passion you need to see. And so I think when you talk about underrated quarterbacks, you talk about guys that who when we're throwing around names that you've never heard of that are coming out, like the Giants starter for this week with two guys being injured, you've never heard of this guy. I don't know why he has this bad taste in everyone's mouth because he does have the numbers. And I think it just all spawns from his time in Jacksonville. Jacksonville put a stain on him. If he had been anywhere else, maybe it would be like, hey, listen, we have our franchise quarterback. Let's roll with him and get him pieces and protect him. And he's a feel-good story. You love to see that family aspect of it. You love to see the way that he carries himself where, he doesn't take himself too seriously. He's not, the hardo and he's not the crazy, like I'm stuck in a playbook. I need to learn everything and anything. He just enjoys his time. He enjoys being a quarterback in the NFL. And I think that's refreshing. So I think whatever after the season, as long as he does well as this backup, he will be traded to a team and I think he will get a starting opportunity.
Yeah, Jake Fromm going for the Giants this week. If Daniel Jones has got the neck sprain, and then Mike Glennon is in the concussion protocol. So you never know when opportunity knocks. Who do you think we overrate the most in the quarterback conversation? Who gets talked about all the time, and it's either because he was a first-round draft pick or the city that he's playing in? Does anybody jump to mind, Nick, that on the overrated side, like, hey, this dude can't play?
All right. So I'm torn on this because I think he can play. I think he's not playing right now very well, so he gets thrown into it. But Baker Mayfield, every time I see one of those Progressive commercials and he's at the stadium and they're talking about something they've shot. I mean, I've seen at least 8 different commercials of him being in the stadium doing things. It's like, what has he done to elicit this amount of media attention in these commercials? And so I think that's kind of where I stand. If he wasn't hurt and he was still flying high and had the Browns rolling, I probably wouldn't think that. But right now with him hurt and, there's all these questions swirling and there's a whole thing with Odell and it's been up and down with Baker. You just sit there and you're like, all right, I've seen enough of, you're going and telling them the security code is 6. Like, it gets old. I don't like it.
Yeah, you know what? That was my initial thought. Baker Mayfield, and no fault of his own. Obviously, if Progressive is going to cut him a check, obviously take the check. But
yeah, I'm not blaming him. Like you get your money and you do your commercials. I will do any commercial that'll come in front of me. I have no issue with that. when we talk like, who overall, like the whole idea of deserving it right now, I just don't see it.
I'm telling you, he must be locked into a great deal with them, with that commercial spot, because it's like 10 different versions of it. And it's like, dude, what is, I know he probably, at this point, he's probably feeling uncomfortable. Like, dude, why am I on national TV? I'm not even playing that well. But, obviously, because it's so that's the top of mind and I don't know if we talk about him as much in terms of overrating him. I just think because we see him so much on television, it makes it feel like, okay, dude, you're not doing anything to warrant a national spot. He's probably on television more than Tom Brady is in commercial spots. So, I think that's one of the things that kind of overrates him. And then they had such high expectations coming into the season, and to fall short of those expectations until now makes him feel really overrated.
Let's talk about a former MVP who may or may not get back to that level, but Lamar Jackson is scuffling right now, and I'm wondering, just reasons why you think it's happening. Baltimore hasn't scored 20 points in their last 4. His QBR on the year is down to 41. Last 2 years he was in the 90s. He was second in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. The Ravens have had issues losing running backs and losing offensive linemen. They're banged up all over the field. But Orlando, what do you think is going on with Lamar when you look at what's at Baltimore?
Yeah, after watching the game this past weekend, it just seems like he has too much pressure on his shoulders. And I think during the course of the offense, I feel like he's trying to do too much, right? Which they need in order for him to win. But, obviously sometimes it's better to throw the ball away, or he holds the ball too long, like those type of things, because I think he's trying to make that big play. And sometimes just being consistent, handing the ball off, or taking that 3-yard run and not making every play the spectacular play, and understanding pocket presence, understanding that TJ Watt's coming off that edge pretty fast. You got to get rid of the ball or get out of the pocket. And so I think he's just trying. It seems like there's a lot of pressure on him. And so much of their offense goes through him and what he can do athletically, that I feel like sometimes he comes up short. I feel like he's he's the only guy on that offense that can make something happen. Don't get me wrong, but as you get deeper into the season, you begin to be wore down, taking the hits, taking the pounding, and I think that's what he's kind of experiencing now.
Yeah, I don't know. This is tough because, you look at Lamar and the way that he's been going, it's been such an up and down role for the Ravens. And, we see going into Pittsburgh is always difficult to play. Pittsburgh coming off that loss at the Bengals, knew they were going to be fired up playing at home. And so that, the defense is going to take it upon himself. But, like Orlando said, you compare it to Patrick Mahomes at the beginning of the season, who was trying to do too much, and, trying to make up for other deficiencies around the team. I feel like this isn't a wear and tear yet, where you were saying like, all right, he's getting worn down, he's getting tired, he's had to take on too much. I think it is him just trying to do too much. And if they can settle down and, they've lost so many people to injuries, O-line and running back, if they could get a run game going, if they could find that little spark to take a little bit of edge off of what Lamar thinks he has to do and just let him, be the guy that they want to be, that would help out a ton. But right now, you've been going through just some weird stretches of games. You had your tummy issue game. You have a game where you throw 4 interceptions, but you still managed to eke out the win. It's been a bad stretch for them. They need to kind of have that get right moment where they take a deep breath. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, all right, we had a bad spell. Let's get right. Let's get back in the book. Let's get back to the fundamentals and we'll be good. And I think that's where they need to go.
Their schedule is tough, Nick. They're at Cleveland, Green Bay at home, at Cincy. They got the Rams and Steelers to wrap up the year. They're in the playoffs right now. I think most people expect that they'll hang there, but who knows what happens here? They could lose out. Do you look at them as Super Bowl contenders right now?
Not, other than the fact that they're in the playoffs right now, but when you do, you talk about that schedule and you talk about, the heavy hitters that are coming down the pike for him. It's going to be a tough road to plow. But if they get through it and they make it in, they're going to be battle tested. And that's one big thing going into the playoffs is, you didn't have any easy wins coming into it. So you know how to play. And so if they get in, I think they could make some smoke of it. It's just, are they going to be able to settle down? And are they going to get back to like, all right, listen, we know how to play defense. We know how to run the ball. Lamar, he's not stuck in this, I need to run first. And he's got more of that passer ability to him now, and get back to that. If they can get the deep breath and settle back in, I think they could make a run at it. But when you're looking at Murder's Row of a schedule to finish the year, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. For me, you just don't know. But you don't know anything about in terms of playoff, in terms of the AFC. There's so many. The parity here is whoever can get hot in the last 3 or 4 weeks is a team that that's the scariest. But if Lamar can start playing more consistent like he did earlier in the year, trust me, none of those teams that he's facing down the stretch want to see him, because obviously it changes the whole scope of their defense, and he's scary when he's on. So if he could ever figure it out in terms of get back on track and throwing the ball, completing passes, scoring touchdowns. But ultimately, I would say probably not. They don't make the playoffs. They just have too many injuries. I know Humphreys is out for the season, which is their all-pro cornerback. So when you look at those things, I think attrition will finally catch up to them, and they probably don't make the playoffs.
All right, Orlando, burying the Ravens nicely. You've got 25 of the 32 NFL teams right now who can at least claim that they're in the playoff race and or in the playoffs. But I'm looking at the top. Let's go top 5, AFC, NFC. NFC, Rams, Cowboys, Bucks, Packers, and the Cardinals at 10-2. And then the AFC, Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans, and then the 9-4 Patriots. Who of those 10, Orlando, do you look at like that team is a pretender? I'm curious which way you want to go here, because there's a lot of options.
Wow, there's so many teams that from week to week you don't know if they're contenders or pretenders, because some days they look great, and other game, other day they don't. So when you look at the Saints, did you mention the Saints though, right, or no?
I didn't give you New Orleans. I'm more looking like New Orleans right now is sitting at 12 at 5-7. I'm looking for. I'd love you to say the Cardinals are going to implode in the playoffs and or the Pats, but maybe you think it's the Green Bay or Tampa, or I don't know. You can look at between the Titans and the Ravens, the Chiefs. I don't think anyone's going to say Kansas City.
You know what? I would probably say out of, because those first 4 teams you name, I think they're all contenders. I think the Tennessee Titans, because you just don't know. I'm not a big believer in Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if Henry's going to come back at running back. So, they looked great against my Rams a few weeks ago, but then they fell off the map a little bit. So I don't know if I quite believe in those guys, those Tennessee Titans yet. Julio Jones, the receiver, Brown's out. So I just don't know if injury is going to take them out, or if they can muster up enough steam to make a real run in the playoffs. So that would be my team. But I think those first 4 teams, when you're talking about the Cardinals and Green Bay and Tampa and New England, all those teams to me, seem like solid teams that have good quarterback play.
Yeah, that's tough. When you look at those 4 teams, the one that stands out to me, because Tennessee is, I think, and I've taken gruff over this for a while now, but without Derrick Henry, I don't think that team is the same team. I don't think they have the same offensive production. Their defense is still solid, but when you're getting like 190 yards out of Tannehill, you're just not going to win a lot of games. But the one that I'm worried about is the Arizona Cardinals. And I've put him on my coaching coach of the year, Cliff Kingsbury. He's done an amazing job. They're getting Kyler Murray back. And so I'm excited to see what they do. But I have this I have this dark cloud over me that says that the Arizona Cardinals aren't going to be able to withstand the playoffs. And I don't know why. Like, I think it's probably recency bias that has it in me. But it's one of those things where I know I still believe that they're unbelievable and they're still at the top of the NFC, and I know all these things. I just have this feeling that when it comes time for playoffs, that they're just going to crash and burn. And I don't know why. There's nothing that you look at it and says, oh, that's definitely, that's their red flag. It just, that's what's in my mind.
This was a layup for you, Nick. You could have just, look, you can't throw the ball 3 times to win football games consistently. You can't win with a rookie quarterback. Mac Jones, everybody's singing Belichick's praises. It's gonna bail out in the playoffs, but it sounds like you believe in New England.
Listen.
You try to get Nick on the record of saying he believes in New England.
No, and I'm not gonna say it because I'm never gonna believe in New England. I'm not gonna do that to myself. What gets me is I will never believe in a rookie quarterback. If this was second year Mac Jones, I would say that they're solid and they're good to go. I don't care what system you have, rookies are still going to be rookies. It is what it is. It's test time. Rookies are rookies for a reason. But what I will say for Bill is that he does put Mac Jones in the best possible position to succeed. The way that they ran the ball 32 consecutive times against Buffalo. They threw the ball 3 times. Like, that game was set up to be a running game, and the Patriots decided, listen, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to stick to our guns. I think many coaches, when you got probably late in the third quarter there, and it's still a 1-score game, might think, hey, if we got the wind to our back, let's throw a couple. Get another score in there. We'll feel a little bit more comfortable about where we are in this game. And Bill stuck to his guns and said, listen, we're just going to run the ball. I mean, they ran a QB sneak. It was like 3rd and 5. And they ran a QB sneak to get it to 4th and 2, and then ran the QB sneak again. So that was their commitment, and that's what they did. And I think that's what makes Bill, the greatest coach of all time, is that he will stay committed to a game plan, and he will ride it out because he thinks he knows best. And, obviously he did that day. I just don't think, if Buffalo didn't make the mistakes that they made. I mean, they went 0-3 in the red zone. They didn't run Josh Allen as much as they should have. They were throwing the ball a little bit and making some great plays, but they had the mistakes. If it had gotten to a point where the Bills were up by maybe a score, maybe 2, if the Bills had gotten up 2 scores and they would have had to unleash Mac Jones, I think it would have been ugly. And that's where, we can all say that Bill's doing a fantastic job, but he's able to coach from a position of power. If the Bills don't mess up, it's a whole different ballgame. And so the Patriots, to me, they're doing everything that they should be doing. They're playing great defense. They're running the ball fantastically, and they're letting Mac Jones make his plays where he can without trying to, do too much. And they've all accepted it. Josh McDaniels has accepted it. Mac Jones has accepted it. Bill is the puppet master and getting them all in place. But at some point, they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone. And I don't know if it's going to happen before the playoffs or once you're in the playoffs, but once you're out of your comfort zone and you've kind of kept this rookie in bubble wrap as we've gone through this season, it might get ugly just because I don't like rookies.
Yeah, let me say that I think Bill, obviously probably one of the greatest coaches of all time, to have that patience to run the ball and only pass the ball 3 times consistently and stick to your guns, your game plan. Not many coaches would ever do that. But to your point, Nick, there's going to be a point in the playoffs where you can't protect Mac Jones that way. You can't protect him. At some point, you got to put him in harm's way where he's going to have to make a play because you're playing against better teams. The defensive scheme's going to be better, and he's going to have to make some plays. And I think they did a great job this past weekend of obviously protecting them, not putting them in harm's way, then have them throwing or running a ton. But to get back to our initial point, Buffalo is one of those teams I think can implode. I think we talk a lot about, they had Super Bowl aspirations, but when you get Josh Allen in those moments where there's fourth and long, he kind of gets a little fidgety to me for some reason, and he'll make a bad throw, make a bad decision, sit in the pocket, take a sack when he's not supposed to take a sack. So Buffalo's one of those teams, to get back to our original point. I think they could implode down the stretch in the playoffs.
Orlando, I heard you say that New England is a pretender. That's what I heard.
But you never know. Coaching, I think coaching, when you look at their staff and what they do well, obviously they I just don't believe. I think a rookie quarterback at some point will make a rookie mistake, and it'll probably be in the playoffs somewhere.
Let's look at the wild card teams right now, and this could change, obviously, with 25 teams still in contention here. But right now, we've got the Chargers, Bengals, and Bills in the AFC, 49ers, Rams, Washington in the NFC. Of those six, who do you think has the best chance of winning the Super Bowl, Nick?
Out of those teams, the one I'm looking at, because they did hurt my record, the Chargers. Being able to go into Cincinnati, play in the cold, play at 1:00, all things that are big strengths against a West Coast team. They were able to handle it well. Justin Herbert, I think, is a fantastic up-and-coming quarterback. They have the potential where they can do some things. And for some reason, the Chargers are another team that has this little dark cloud over them. But I feel like with the way that they're playing, if they got hot and got rolling, they could be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's easy for me. I'm gonna stick with my Rams, just because I think they have so much talent. At some point, obviously they played Jacksonville this past weekend, which is probably one of those games to kind of get them back going a little bit after dropping three games. But obviously it's one of those things where they have so much talent. If McVay can figure out a way to get all the pieces together and keep everybody healthy and have Matthew Stafford, do what he was doing early in the season, they have a real chance to make a run. And obviously Aaron Donald, you get Von Miller to put some pressure on some quarterbacks and play at a high level. I think they could pull it together and make a real Super Bowl run.
I love the loyalty, and it'd be a great story. Hey, just because we've basically talked about every team in the NFL except for Nick's Jets, let's tee up the bottom of the league right now. Giants, Jets, Lions, Jaguars, Texans. Will make you own your Chicago Bears, Orlando, and the Seahawks, who, there's major changes coming to these teams. Who of those six do you think could actually be, who would you bet on to be in the playoffs next year? Nick, you want to go?
That's a tough one. Because they're all not good. If I had to pick one, it would be someone that has the Seahawks are kind of the one that you always go back to. You have Russell Wilson. I don't know what's going on this year with them. But if we have this downward spiral, I don't know if they're going to climb back out of it. The one that I'm kind of intrigued by, just because we don't know what's going to happen in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. So the division could be up for grabs. The Bears, Justin Fields being Ohio State quarterback, I have to be a homer. They have him there. They can play to they're going to have a new head coach. You can get a bump off of that, with a solid quarterback in place. They have a good defense. So if I were going to put it on there, I would probably take the Bears.
Yeah. And I think, I was thinking the Bears also, but it's also contingent on what type of head coach is coming in there next. Will he be the head coach that kind of fits what Justin Fields does well? And obviously, so he can have some growth. I love to see what Jacksonville's going to do. Urban Meyer down there in Jacksonville, what he can do. Obviously Trevor Lawrence, he's been touted the best quarterback of this generation. Love to see him get his feet under him and see what he could do with some real talent around him. Hopefully he'll draft well, get some weapons for him. So I love to see that guy. But in Detroit, I looked at Jared Goff last week. Now I don't know if he'll be there next year, but if he plays anywhere close to the way he played against the Minnesota Vikings this past week, and they add a few more pieces, they could make a run. Nick, to your point, if Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay, they could be in the playoffs next year too. So let me say Detroit, only because if Jared Goff plays and stays, I'll say Detroit because I think they have an easier path with Aaron Rodgers out of the way.
The Lions celebrated like they won the Super Bowl.
I know.
For them, they did.
They did. They got off. They did. But Jared Goff has that kind. He had a couple games like that with the Rams, man. And I'm not sure what happened this year, but he played well last week. So
I'm just thinking about down years for y'all, and just you get a win like that. It's gotta feel like the Super Bowl. Like, oh my God, we got one. Thank you. I can enjoy my dinner. I can sleep all right. Does any game stick out to you that way? We're like, oh, thank you. I can breathe.
Yeah, you know what it does. I think my second year in the league, I lost 8 in a row. By the time we won that 9th game, it was like, dude, because everybody, you don't realize that streak, and everybody's talking about it in the newspapers. Everybody, you don't even want to go out. You can't, you don't want to go out in public because you've lost 8 games in a row. So to win that game, it sort of does feel like a Super Bowl just to get that off your back.
Yeah, having after a losing streak. Where we're talking 4 or 5 plus games, you get that next win, you're just like, oh, thank you. Like, it's so much better. The whole atmosphere is different. Your home life's better. Just walking in the facility, like the security guard sitting at the stand, like he's got a smile on his face that morning. Like it changes everything.
All right, gentlemen, let's make our picks here. Last week, y'all tied. Orlando 1-2, Nick 1-2, which. Pace, you're still creeping here at the same pace, I should say, at 17-20, Nick's 21-16. So we need a hot streak for Orlando to get in here. Nick, you want to start out picks of the week? Of course, all your gambling, go to wynnbet.com, wynnbet.com. Pick of the week, Nick Mangold, you're leading the competition, so you go first.
This one, it's recency biased. I will admit that right away. So I'm going with it, even though the number scares me. I'm taking Chargers -10 versus the Giants. Giants are on their 3rd quarterback. It's a home game for the Chargers. It's a lot of points in the NFL. I get that. I just don't see the Giants being able to match. I don't think Saquon's back from that injury as much as he'd like to be. So for me, I think the Chargers, after having that solid win in Cincinnati, are feeling pretty good. And I think they'll come out and make quick work of the Giants.
Yeah. For me, my game of the week is the Dallas Cowboys -4 over the Washington football team. Dallas has had some time. They've been playing on Thursday nights for the past couple of weeks, so they've had some time to get some guys healthy, get them back in the fold. I think they start hitting their stride a little bit. And they win by more than 4 points on Sunday.
Season record 17-20 Orlando. Nick's 21-16. Orlando, give me your upset.
I'm going with I think the Detroit Lions. I've been jumping on their bandwagon a little bit. I think they continue their success. They're going against the Denver Broncos, and they're getting 7.5 points. I think it'll be much closer than that. So my pick is the Detroit Lions. I'm riding Jared Goff to continue his hot streak and playing well. And, that victory could be contagious. So they may even be a major upset there. So
the red hot Detroit Lions. Let's go.
Red hot Detroit Lions. That was actually my second pick for upset. I do. That's a big number. I think they're going to keep it close. The only thing that concerns me is going to Mile High. That affects everybody differently. So best of luck to you, Orlando, even though I still want to beat you. Personally, I'm going to say that the Ravens will have that deep breath and get back on track moment. They're sitting at 2.5 over the Browns. I think the Browns are still just a disarray. I don't think Baker's getting healthy anytime soon. So I think the Ravens defense will feast, and I hope Lamar figures it out and doesn't try to do too much. So I'm taking Ravens +2.5.
That almost feels like stealing, getting the better team. and you're getting points. I like it. Let's do the number. We going up top or we going underneath here, Nick?
I hate doing it, but the Jets versus the Saints. It's here in New Jersey. It's going to be cold. Weather seems to be a slight factor. So the Saints, usually used to playing in a dome. The Jets just are all over the place right now, and they need to figure things out. So I'm taking under 43.5 with the Jets Saints.
Yeah. For me, I'm going Buffalo Bills and Tampa Bay. I'm going in the under 52.5 points. I think it'll be a really good game, but I think, obviously it'll be under the 52.5. So that's my take.
It's a big one, Sunday afternoon. Don't forget Sunday night. Interesting that nobody was willing to take the Chicago Bears with a major upset at Green Bay. Gentlemen, I went backwards hat today because I want to be on the team. I want to know if you think that I'm even remotely pulling it off. Do I have any of the NFL offensive linemen living the dream life look that, can I pull this off, or I got to go back to regular, nerd TV guy? What do you think?
No, you're adopted. You're in.
You're
allow
in,
you
bro.
in the club.
Oh,
You're in.
This is big.
We get you growing a beard here next week, man.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. All right. If I do that, we're gonna get I'll get a lot of grays coming in here. I don't see too many out there. Maybe Nick, you're hiding it well.
Yeah.
You might.
Yeah, mine's hidden.
Yeah. Gentlemen, great stuff. Big man bets. We got 5 weeks to go here. Playoffs lurking. So hey. Good luck on the picks. Let's get hot. And thanks to everybody for watching the show today. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.